I'm joined now by LaToya Whitlock of Decode Project, which is one of the recipients of the Samtec CARES grants. We appreciate them. They have been powering our ExtoLove series over the last year and are doing it again this year, where we've had the opportunity to highlight nonprofits and charities in our regional community and people as well who are doing things that are absolutely incredible and matter. Now, LaToya, I know this. The vision of Decode Project is that you envision a world where all kids have access to educational resources regardless of where they live. Tell us more about Decode Project.
Sure. So Decode Project was born out of a thought. I'm a former school counselor. I work with students and young people in social services my entire professional career. And at some point, we recognized and realized that students were struggling in the classroom academically, and that more affluent families were fortunate enough to be able to receive services, pay for services, to remediate some of those issues, while other students weren't able to because of their family's socioeconomic background. And so we just realized that wasn't an equitable way for our education situation to exist. And not to mention, it's personal for me in that it's an investment in the future.
Right.
Our future doctors, lawyers, teachers, writers, hosts are going to be in the classroom. And if they're struggling to read, it just limits their potential and quality of life, quite frankly.
So then how does Decode Project ensure literacy is equitable and inclusive?
We do it in 3 ways. So the first way that we prepare our young people for reading is we hire and train literacy mentors. And it started off with 3 co-founders who were really excited about making sure that all students could read, but I'm only one person,
right,
and we can't reach the audience that needs to be reached. So we hire and bring on literacy mentors. They're college-age students. They're cool. They're fun. They're interesting for the kiddos to work with. We partner them with one-to-one structured literacy resources. Structured literacy uses the science of the way that the brain learns to read.
Will you grab that?
Sure.
and hold that up? I'm very curious. So something like this.
Yes.
What is this?
So this is a tile board, and it allows us to see letters. You can feel and touch. It's exciting. It's magnetic, so the kids can hear the snapping. It's multi-sensory, so we're not only just sit and get, but the kids get to touch tangible things. We first spell out a word by hearing the sound. So for instance, we'll give a kid a word like dog. We'll say, how many sounds do you hear in dog? D, ah, g. Well, now we've engaged our fingers. The more senses you include in the way that you teach a kid to read, the more likely, even adults, we're likely to retain the information. And eventually the kids are able to spell and build words. These are arbitrary symbols, our letters are. If I were to give you a Mandarin symbol, we might know that it's Mandarin, but we don't know what the meaning is. And that's the same way for our kids. The Q and the U, they're together because they're almost always together. And we just make it easier for kids to learn how to do a really hard thing.
So utilizing literacy mentors and multisensory types with the curriculum, and I mean, I see books, and as a lover of books, I'm doing everything I can, LaToya, to not touch and open
touch,
each
feel,
one.
we encourage it.
I do. I am one of those. I'm assuming lots of books.
Lots of books. What's interesting is when a kid sees a book, it may be overwhelming to see all of those letters together. Yes. So if you start with the basics of what each letter represents, then we tell them you can blend it and you create all these other words. The words create sentences, the sentences create paragraphs, and the paragraphs create your individual story. And that's when a kid really lights up. Not just the books that they're reading that were written by someone else, but the potential of them being able to share their story. That's really powerful for us, and that's how we know that we've kind of made our mission go into fruition.
So what have you seen? What results are you seeing from this?
First, we're seeing readers who are confident, kids who go into the classroom feeling prepared and as if they belong in the classroom. We're seeing leadership start to rise. They raise their hands to ask questions. They're able to support and help their peers. We talk to the kids often about you gain esteem by doing esteemable things.
Yes.
And learning to read is one way that you can do an esteemable thing. We know that answers are always, some of them are hidden, And some of them are obvious, but you can find them in books. For the population that we serve, we also talk to them about legacy. Lots of our students are Black or brown, or again, identify as those who come from lower socioeconomic backgrounds. And throughout our history, especially in our country, it was illegal for some of their great-grandparents or great-great-grandparents to learn to read. So we also see it as reading as a gateway to freedom, literally and figuratively.
I was one of those kids who just by sheer happenstance was able to read from an early age, and books took me places. And I get excited still when it comes to having a tangible book in your hand. When you see the difference between what you said, I mean, you're able to touch, and there's kind of a little bit of a matte feeling on those, and they click, and you're using your fingers as opposed to reading on the screen. Do you see any difference with what kids get the most joy from?
I do. What I think is most interesting is that they are creative. Kids are always learning, whether we want them to learn certain things or not. And so what we do is we create an environment that is super sensory seeking, opportunities to learn. And what we've noticed is that while we have some tablets available for kids to use in programming, they will go to a turn page book.
Oh, that makes me feel so.
They are excited about that.
That gives me some hope.
It does, for me too.
In a world where right now we're looking at AI and, the metaverse and all of these things, I just look around, and I mean, there's nothing like a book in your hand, and there's nothing like a child who realizes I can read, and then, like you said, I can write. I can start to tell my story.
Yes. There is a Mary McLeod Bethune quote that we have on our t-shirts on the back of our logo. And it says, "The world opened up to me the day I learned to read."
Oh, I love that.
And we even ask a lot of our literacy mentors as we train them and our caregivers, how many words have you read in a day? And now I'm going to take all of that away. What would you do with your day?
I can't.
We couldn't. And a lot of people, adults included, they can't. We know that our prison population is filled with more than 70% of those who experience recidivism are functionally illiterate. And our way of running an interference is to start early, because we know a lot of the solutions are in those early young readers.
Did you bring books? Because, I mean, we want to see books, and obviously that is part of what you do, a massive part. Or are these particular books significant?
These books are significant. We used a lot of these books during our summer camp. It was a 5-week-long literacy camp that also had a lot of enrichment and engagement and experiential learning opportunities. And so the books that I brought today talks about different cultures, it talks about history, it talks about future generations. A lot of the students see themselves inside of the books, which is really exciting. We know that book-rich environments are important, but also seeing themselves. There's a student in this book that's in a wheelchair, so seeing someone who's differently abled. Not only is it to see yourself, but also to appreciate and embrace those who are different around you. And that's super exciting.
It's very easy, I think, for people who have never experienced what that's like.
Absolutely.
I mean, I'm not going to make any assumptions about age, but I remember growing up and nobody looked like me, except, well, Claire Huxtable and,
the
Oprah.
Cosby Kids, yeah.
And when I see me, I mean, you rejoice. And then if you are like my daughter's generation, and she goes to a wonderful school where you see people from all walks of life, and then you just see everybody.
It's normalized.
And I love that.
Yeah.
She has no idea, and I'm glad. I'm glad that she doesn't understand that. Like when the Crayola crayons came out, and I remember someone saying to me, "Why is this such a big deal?" And I said, "The fact that you don't know, you don't know what that's like to pick up a crayon that's my color."
Right.
I don't know that I can articulate that to you.
A crayon, a Band-Aid,
Oh,
a shoe that is nude.
but a book.
Right.
A book. I see me in these pages. That's so important. That's so important for our kids 2 questions,
Sure.
LaToya. How do young people become involved? How do they benefit from your organization?
What's interesting is each time we share our story of students who are struggling readers, we'll have doctors, lawyers, teachers, preachers all say, actually I had a son, I had a nephew, I struggled to read. So this isn't an isolated issue for just a few people. It's really common. Again, 1 in 5 human beings. That's not just children. There are adults who may be even in this room or in this building who are struggling readers or who struggled early to read. So family members immediately, when they see, hear, learn some information about it, they reach out to us. Our word of mouth has really kind of taken us. We don't have the capacity to support as many students as we'd like to. Our gratitude for the Samtec Cares program, most definitely. Thank you so much for seeing us, recognizing, and then investing. We have an employee whose son participates in the program, and the mom posted about his experience. And so then other people will ask more questions, and that's kind of how it led us to you today.
Absolutely. Now, what about for people who want to support?
Absolutely.
What do you need?
We need, we're a very young nonprofit. We've been around, we'll have our 4-year-old birthday in October, but already we've worked with over 200 students.
That's phenomenal.
And also resourced their families. And one of our needs is just folks who are interested in learning more about the program and wanting to get engaged as a literacy mentor. There is an extensive training. It is a paid opportunity. And then folks who have children who are interested in participating in our program can go to our website, and that's decodeproject.org.
And you can find everything you need there. Favorite book when you were a kid? I know I put you on the spot with that.
There's so many.
There are so many. What's one that you just, did you ever, I was one of those that hid in a corner. And if my mom could find me, okay, but she would have to break me out of the trance of the book. And again, so many different books.
With Oprah being my role model, it was Roll of Thunder, Hear My Cry, and I would present it to my grandmother as a part of my book club and act some of the parts out to share it. And that's kind of how I was just enraptured in books and literacy.
Well, I encourage you to keep doing what you're doing.
Thank you.
Thank you so much to Samtec Cares, which just gave, hundreds of thousands of dollars to nonprofits in our region. And again, give that website, LaToya, one more time.
It is www.decodeproject.org. And we're also available on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook under the same Decode Project.
Okay, well, look forward to checking back in with you, that's for sure. Great group of books here. We might just sit and read as soon as the live stream is over, that's for sure.